welcome to my first video. Well, it's not actually my first. I had a few before, but I deleted them because they're just art speed draws that I didn't like very much because they weren't that good. But anyways, this is going to be the new first video. And this one is about Michael Jackson. No, it's not about my wonky lash. I'm not that good at applying them yet, so don't talk about it. And if I touch them, don't talk about it. If I touch my hair a lot, don't talk about it, okay? Because we're talking about Michael right now. That's the subject, okay? Also, don't talk if I touch my earbuds. They're not very good. They're like $20 from the Walmart. And I lost one. And they just don't stay in very well. So, yeah. But anyways, I want to talk about Michael Jackson because right now everyone's in Michael mania. We've kind of always have been. But it's kind of returning again because of the biopic. I think I'm saying it wrong. Sorry. Speech impediment. Don't talk about it. But when things become popular, a lot of misinformation also comes, like usual. And it's just one of the many misinformation things that really get misinformed about Michael that I wanted to talk about. I've been thinking about him so much. Oh my gosh. And before I start, I guess I just want to say, well, I do think that YouTube, oh my gosh, I was reflecting so much. YouTube videos and YouTube video essays are very important to help spread good information. I think that when we watch videos online, we should still take them with a grain of salt, especially if they don't show a full clip of something. They don't explain the rest of the clip. They don't put any resources down. I think you should definitely be have a little side of salt with it. Okay, get a few packets. Because you never know. Also, check out people's resources, because sometimes it could literally be some website you never heard of before that has no good reviews or anything or whatever. Know where your information is coming from. It's like that for a lot of things. It's how, because some people will be oh, well, this person's bad, but it's this sucks. Sorry. Let's skip what I was gonna say. Just be aware of who you get your information from and who they support. So let's start. The first thing I want to talk about. First off, this is a retake because I was rewatching my video and I kept missing things I wanted to say. So I want to talk about Joe Jackson. I know, evil's freak. This is going to be kind of the shorter segment. The other segment I'm going to ramble on a lot more. But Joe Jackson is definitely a really big part of Michael's life, obviously, because that's his dad. Even though he wasn't a good one. But anyways, I want to talk about how people view him. And either it's kind of we hate him. We know that he was he was abusive towards Michael. We would never want to support that guy. We hate him. And we'll never forgive him. That's the side I'm on. The other side is this weird, I shouldn't say weird, it's their opinion, but I do not agree. And I think they are heavily misinformed. This side of people who don't think that Joe's a bad dad. And they think just because his kids have kind of forgave him, like Michael did, he had that whole he was like up on a stage at the podium, and he's like, I forgive Joe for what he's done. People see that and they're automatically like, this means that Joe's okay. I can put him back in my bio. I can put him as my favorite person ever, who I want to be in life. That's not the case. Just because a victim comes out and says, I forgive the perpetrator, doesn't mean that the perpetrator's actions are excusable or okay. It just means that the victim has moved past it at such a point where they feel like they can forgive them, which I do not feel like people need to do. You definitely do not need to do that. Because someone has affected you that bad, someone did that to you as a kid, I thought it was okay. I don't think you need to like excuse any of that. That's wild. But there's people out there who, they see that clip, they excuse him, but they also like have this weird misinformation about him, where I was in this YouTube comment section and everyone in there was like kind of praising Joe. They're like, oh, we love Joe, role model, he was such a good dad, he was just a little strict, when he was really just a lot of crazy. There's one I thought was super weird, because it was describing a situation I've heard of, but it was the exact opposite. It was like, what did they say? They were like, one of Joe's kids, I'm gonna assume Michael, because the story I heard, it was Michael, went up to Joe and was like, Joe, I would really want to call you dad. Like, I wish I could call you dad. And Joe was like, that's a great idea. You can call me dad. The story I heard, unless this is a totally different instance I've never heard of, or this is some parallel universe that they're from, the story I heard was when Michael was little, and this is from an interview. Michael said this. I saw the interview. Michael's like, for the longest time in my life, I wanted to call Joseph dad, but I was never able to. And he said he really wanted to. And he recounts on a story where he goes up to Joseph and he's like, he calls him dad, and he's like, don't call him dad, it's Joseph. Which is really crazy that someone has that type of story so mixed up. And it's like, where are you getting your information from? You know? Because I don't know how people can look at Joseph Jackson and say that's a good dad. Like, I actually saw a video. They're talking about a completely different situation, but it still pertained to like the same situation that they were in. It's like, the people that like hit their kids, would you do that to an adult? Like, if someone came up to you and said something you didn't like, would you just punch them? Like, obviously no, unless you're like, I don't know, drunk at the bar. No, that's stupid. Like, you normally wouldn't do that. It depends sometimes, you know, I feel you. But usually you don't do that. Like, if someone does something bad, like they spill their water on the floor, you don't hit them. So why would you do that to your kid? You know, you gotta think of it like that, because kids are people too. They don't know a lot of stuff, which is why you can't just like go off on them acting like they've known this stuff for forever, like they've been here before. You know, it's wild. It's like, how can you excuse that behavior just because it's like kids forgive him? Doesn't mean you can just like excuse that, because then once you excuse someone's behavior just like that, then a lot more people who do those same actions, who don't get, like, whose victims don't even forgive them, who are traumatized for life, are like those people who do the abuse are just excused with no consequences. Also, just because the victim says, I forgave you, doesn't mean their trauma's gone, because Michael's definitely was not. His kids, definitely not. Also, as I'm talking about this, I was thinking about that interview. I'm pretty sure, I actually don't know whose talk show it was, but it was Tito Jackson. And he was saying how his dad was a good dad. And people were like, see, that proves that he wasn't that bad. But you gotta think, you really gotta think about the environment they grew up in. How that type of behavior was normalized for them. So, if your parent says, no, that's just me being a little strict, and they're like, okay, that's just my dad being strict. And if they hear other people like, oh yeah, my parents were strict too, like you say, oh yeah, my dad was strict, and like, mine too, then you kind of normalize that behavior without going into depth about how their parents were strict. Because maybe their parents were just like, no video games past 10, and you're like, you're so strict. You know, people's definition of strictness is very different. So, you know, that's what I want to say about Joe. There's definitely a lot more I can touch on, but we're gonna move on to the next thing I want to talk about. Plastic surgery. I'm not a plastic surgeon. I'm not a psychologist, so that stuff back there, take it with a grain of salt. Plastic surgery. As I said, I'm not a plastic surgeon, but I've definitely, like, just through reality TV, obviously reality TV, it does have to be somewhat real, or else it can't get awards. But it's a lot of dramatic size. I can't say it. I have a speech impediment. It's definitely a little dramatic, but it's still like it shows like realness. They just edit it a lot. Michael's plastic surgery was very like dramatic size. It was very over exaggerated. And oh my gosh, wait, I said that whole thing wrong. When I was talking about me not being a real plastic surgeon and me watching reality TV, that's how I got my information. While I was watching Botched, I was watching My Strange Addiction, and they kind of talk about plastic surgery addiction, and what botched surgery can look like, how extreme it can get, how unextreme it can look. So that's how I kind of got my information. Plus, video essays online. So I want to talk about Michael's plastic surgery. As someone who does makeup and a lot of styling, I understand how his look changed, and I understand why people thought he got a lot more plastic surgeries than he actually did. Is because they don't understand what Michael was going through. So, first off, Michael had vitiligo. Okay, I don't want to hear that he was bleaching it. No. He even like confirmed in an Oprah interview that he didn't even know what skin bleaching was. And while Oprah is like, well, I was seeing so many ads about it on TV and everywhere. Well, she's talking about when she was a kid. Well, when Michael was a kid, he wasn't watching TV all the time. He didn't have a lot of downtime because he was doing a bunch of concerts and a bunch of rehearsals. So he wasn't as exposed to stuff like that. And the reason why his skin was getting lighter is because of the vitiligo. And also he was using a medication that did even out his skin tone. So it kind of not made him lighter, but it was evening it out, which is very common. It's a lot more common in skincare than you may think. It's even like body washes or like sugar scrubs to even out skin tone. You know, like redness and stuff. Like, look at me, I'm burnt. Like, I want to even that out, so I'll use like a scrub. Even like skincare that I've gotten from dermatologists have like some sort of like skin even out, or like one of them's for, because I have a lot of acne scarring, one of them's to lighten up those scars. You know, it's a lot more common than you may think. And so is vitiligo, but we try to act like it's not common because we just don't want to learn about it, and we just don't want to accept that there are people out there with skin conditions, you know? So with this vitiligo and with his skin becoming lighter as time went on, because it was a very severe case, his facial features looked different because light reflects differently off of different colors, you know? It's just like this white, it's gonna make me look different than my actual skin tone, you know? It's just, you're just going to look different if you have like different things going on your face. So also, he was gaining and losing weight frequently. Not really gaining, mostly losing, because he had a ED, which he talked about in a phone call, a leaked phone call. He actually didn't talk about it voluntarily. It was a leaked phone call. But if you're losing weight, your skin, the way your skin sits on your face is going to be different, because now it's not sitting on a lot of fat, or, you know, it's going to be sitting on more bone, and it's going to droop maybe a little more. You're going to look a little more gaunt than full. So he didn't have any like facelifts or anything. No surgeries though. He did. He had 2. There's a lot of different stories that I've been hearing about why he got the first one. To be honest, why does it matter so much? You know, it's his face, and as long as he's doing it in a safe way and not going in someone's backyard surgery clinic, I think it's fine. The reason why he did get it was a little, you know, like a little concerned, because, well, this is one of the reasons I've heard, is, and the one that was presented in the biopic, is that because his dad was calling him Big Nose, which is true, he was calling that. Don't know if that's the exact reason why he got that surgery, but that's listed as one of the reasons. Another reason I've heard is he broke his nose during a dance rehearsal, and another one is because of like sinuses and like breathing on stage while like dancing and singing. I'm winded just thinking about that. I'm like breathing heavy. But he got that first surgery. If you look at photos of him, like off the wall to Thriller, because that's kind of when the first surgery happened, his nose does not look that different. Like, so I have both the albums. Let's go. I have both the albums. Real one. Let me show you. This is off the wall. Oh my gosh, stop reflecting. If you look at his nose, it lines up with the corner of his eyes, and you can tell he definitely got more taken off in the middle here, but not really shrunken too much. And then Thriller, this is an original copy. Ooh, that's so cool. You can see his nose definitely slopes down a lot closer to his face, so he definitely did get that part done, but still, this part still kind of lines up with his eyes, so it wasn't that dramatic as people may make it out to be. The second one, from what I heard, it was the first surgery. It was a little botched. Okay, it happens. You can go to the most experienced surgeons sometimes, and they can still mess it up somehow. They leave the scalpel on your chest. Oh, my bad. But I guess they messed it up a little bit, so he did have to get another surgery. And that was that. And maybe in that second surgery they did do a little bit more, like making it a little smaller, putting it maybe a little more up. But that could just be because maybe it was that botch. Maybe, if you've watched the show Botched, you would see, like, when someone's surgery gets messed up, it can mess up a lot more. And they might have to take out more tissue, more skin. They might have to make something smaller. They might have to take something out completely. You don't, we don't know all the circumstances that comes with that. So you can't just assume it's because he wanted that tiny nose, or he wanted to be white, as some people say, which is definitely not true. He was very you hear the speech from it? He was very proud to be black. So don't try to twist anything to make it seem like he wasn't, because he was proud. Also, this is something else I was trying to talk about in my previous take, is how people are very one route about plastic surgery, because, as one of the theories went, he got it because he broke his nose. And whenever you say, like, surgery, like plastic surgery, they're automatically like, it's because they hate themselves. It's because they want a smaller nose. It's because they wanted to be skinnier. It's because they wanted to be taller. And they don't ever consider that it's a medical procedure, and sometimes people need it to stay alive, or to fix something that's broken. It's kind of like ultrasounds. Like, when you say, oh, I got ultrasound, someone's like, you're pregnant? No, silly. I had a cyst. Like, people just, like, put things in a box that don't need to be in a box. And they do that too with bringing up the allegations, which I'll touch more on in a different video. Bring up the allegations. A lot of people talk about because we all know he had a bad childhood. Some people oddly do deny it. They're like, that doesn't impact anything. It does. A lot of people assume that because he had a bad childhood, he wanted to do bad things to people, like kids. People that just automatically assume that, they're watching those true crime channels, and a lot of times in true crime, something traumatic will happen to, like, the person that commits the crime. And they say stuff like, hurt kids, which definitely can be true. Not saying that it's not true. It definitely can be true, but you can't put that as a stereotype for every person who's had something traumatic happen to them, like when they're a kid or in their later years, Like, you just can't, because it doesn't always work out that way, and people don't always take their trauma that way. You feel me? It's just crazy. Also, hashtag MJ innocent. And if anything, like, because when I was watching my previous take, I was like, oh my gosh, I keep mixing up my words, I keep leaving things out. If you notice that, put it in the comments. I'll maybe comment it. I'm like kind of like Mike, because he was like, oh, sometimes I just can't get my words out the way I want to. And like Macaulay Culkin talked about that. He was like, sometimes Mike just doesn't explain things very well. That's me. I understand that completely, because I still have like thoughts and stuff, and I want to get them out, and I want to write them down. And I'm just like, once I get to the paper or once I get to the video, I'm really what? So, feel free to give me feedback, because feedback is very important, especially when you're talking about a real person in real life, especially someone's life that has been so scrutinized and so, like, what's called exaggerated, and someone's life that has been twisted by, like, media, because the media does not like someone who isn't white to be in power or calling them out. And yeah, just remember to stay informed, research, form your own opinions about things, and remember that you're talking about real people, and those people are people. But it's true, like, those people are people. You gotta think, like, if someone's making up rumors about you, you would be, like, going nuts. I know I would. If I was Mike, I would probably be taking an axe to the wall. Probably had the reporters too, but he didn't, because he's hashtag humble, and he's hashtag a good person. So that's it. I'm going to try to edit this, but it probably won't be that well edited. So, I'll see you. Goodbye.